Okay, we just read the 13th chapter of Romans. That pretty, what does that even mean? Well, you know what? Read it. Just sit down and read it, and you kind of know what it means, don't you? 13th chapter of Romans. So we're going to start in verse 1. We're kind of going to go verse by verse through this chapter, and we'll just see how far we go. We may get through all 14 verses, or we may just get through one. I don't know. But I like what the title of the lesson is, The Gospel of Grace and Civil Government. Grace is, when we talk about grace in the context of church and religion or Christianity or whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to call it, it's God giving good things to those who do not deserve them or earn them. That's grace. I mean, that's what we live and die by as missionary Baptists, right? God's grace. Him giving us good things that we haven't earned, nor do we deserve. So the gospel of grace and civil government. So there is grace in this world. We are not a deist, and I don't know, I couldn't give you the exact definition of a deist, but a deist kind of believes that God threw it down there and said, "Have at it, y'all. I'm not going to have anything to do with it. Here it is, and you do what's right." I don't believe that. I believe God works in every aspect of every human being's life. He provides for us good ways to go. He provides that day in, day out, year in, year out, millennial in, millennial out. I believe that. So we have God's grace, take it or leave it. God does not force His grace on anyone. I can't say I'm not political because I am. I don't think you'll ever run into any adult who's not political. I'm not a Republican, nor am I a Democrat. I am political, and the hard thing for me is keeping that out of the kingdom of heaven. Politics are no place, or have no place in the kingdom of heaven. When you think of the kingdom of heaven, do you think, how much say does the president have in that? Or the citizens, for that matter. We talk about a totalitarian dictatorship. There's that word again, Lucas. I don't know why I've stuck on that word. I guess it's because it's the longest word with the most syllables I've ever learned and was able to pronounce. But when it comes to the kingdom of heaven, God reigns, God rules, God makes the rules. But He enforces those rules through grace. His grace. So I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but I am very political. I'll never tell you who I vote for, but I do vote. Got to vote for somebody, don't you? I don't lay my hopes on anybody I vote for, though. I don't, if we could just get this man in office or this person in office, I'm going to vote for him. And no, I don't vote that way. I like to believe, based on what we've read in the 13th chapter of Romans, that God is in control. He knows what man needs. I observed a study just recently, a secular study. They had these cages, and they put rats in these cages, just a little cage, and they put a rat in a cage. And they fed the rat, and they gave the rat water, but they gave the rat two sources of water. One source of water was laced with a recreational drug that people use today, hard drug, bad. The other one was pure water, straight up water. So they put the rat in there, gave him two choices of water, the drug water and the good water. And they fed the rat. And you know what the rat did? It drank the drug water till it died. Had a choice. Both of them sitting there. It could pick either one. Well, it picked the drug water, and it drank it until it died. It happened on several occasions. Let me tell you what a Republican does. And I'm not here to offend Republicans. The Republican blames the drug. War on drugs, does that sound familiar? You know what party we live in today that declares the war on drugs? The Republican Party. They blame the drugs. And then the Democrats blame the cage, the environment. When is somebody going to blame the rats? Have you ever read the Bible? The rats are the blame. You know why I avoid trying to be a religious person? Because a religious person blames the devil. Who do we need? Who does mankind need to blame for their problems? Look in the mirror, mankind. That person looking back at you is the one who built the environment that you're in today. Maybe not when you're a little kid. You have no, when you're a child, you have no say in how the environment you're brought up. But you grow up, you begin to make decisions. You designed the environment that you live in. So I try not to be a Democrat. Try not to be a Republican. Democrats get so mad at Republicans for making a war on drugs. Drugs are an inanimate object. What do drugs ever do to anybody? They don't do it. They're right on that. Drugs don't do a thing. They're just sitting there. You put a pound of cocaine on that table right there, it'll be there in 1,000 years if no human being messes with it. It can't get up, walk off that table. You get what I'm saying? Well, then the Democrats are making war on gun violence. Do you see how strange politics are today? You could put a .30-06 or a pistol, a handgun, or an assault rifle on that desk right there beside that pound of marijuana. And let me tell you where they're going to be in 1,000 years if nobody messes with them. Right there on that table. Guns don't do violence. Drugs don't kill people. Drugs are an inanimate object. When are we going to blame the rats? And I say that from a rat's point of view. Got to be careful. The Bible don't say much to anything about rats. But I got to thinking about that study. And I don't know if I've overthought it, or if maybe I should give it a couple months to think about that study, or if I'm just too early in on what I've been thinking about on that study of the rats in the cage and the drugs. I'm going to say we. I'm not going to involve you. I'm going to talk about, make spectacle of myself, all right? Me being a rat. Should I say, as one rat to another? Well, you might get offended at that. I ain't a rat. Okay, this rat right here. Rats have been on a sinking ship for 6,000 years now. The rats are going down with the ship, right? The devil, Jesus is standing there side by side, and Jesus reached down and he takes that rat, that dirty rat. Takes it, and the devil goes, "That's a dirty rat. What are you doing with that rat?" And Jesus says, "Yeah, but that's my rat." Get what I'm saying? What are you talking about the Bible? Yeah, Genesis and Revelation, right here. Yeah, Jesus says, "That's my rat." Well, the devil goes, "Well, here's my rat. It's a good rat. It's a smart rat. It's a rich rat. It's a good-looking rat. A very moral rat. And you know what Jesus said? Well, keep that. That's your rat. It ain't my rat. That rat right there. Now, that's a dirty rat. Well, that's my rat, though. Huh? Ain't you glad you're a child of God? I don't want to, call you a rat. I call myself a rat. All right, sheep. There's clean sheep and dirty sheep. There's sheep not of this fold. There's sheep of this fold. All right, that's my sheep. It ain't a good sheep. Yeah, but it's my sheep. I died for that sheep. I purchased that sheep. That sheep believed in me right there. That sheep trusts me. That's my sheep. Yeah, but it ain't a very good sheep. It don't matter. Look at my sheep. The devil says, look at my sheep. It's a good sheep. It's a wonderful sheep. It has a wonderful life. It's beautiful. It's very productive. It's a good sheep. And Jesus said, well, that ain't my sheep. That sheep rejected me. This is my sheep, this dirty sheep right here. Listen, y'all, we've got to start blaming the rats. So Democrats blame the environment. Republicans blame the drug. Religious people blame the devil. How about this? Blame the rat. Now poor old rats had no control. Somebody built, that was all humans being put a rat in a cage. That's kind of cruel if you ask me. We're not rats. We're not sheep. God treats us as sheep. Sheep is a dumb animal. That's one thing I know for sure. Sheep has to be taken care of. So we're sheep. Avoid politics. Stop being political. Well, that'd make me the biggest hypocrite on earth. I'm very political. If I'm not careful, politics get into my Bible study and into my preaching, and it might have this morning in my Bible teaching. I don't know. But the subject under consideration this morning is Romans chapter 13. So you kind of start thinking that way, all right? I don't care who you vote for, but let me tell you something. You vote for somebody thinking they're going to make your life better, you are deceived. Well, if we could just get this person, no, vote your conscience. Why would I vote for this? Why would I vote for that? I don't tell you who to vote for. I'm not going to tell you who I vote for. But I know this. There was an old timer that ran around this town years ago when I was in DeQueen. On the back of his truck, he had the words written, vote for the goat. Very religious man. And I'm not joking. You know who he looked like? And picture in your mind what Moses looked like. There was two of them. They were brothers. Had robes down to the foot and had big beards. And I called them the Moses brothers. Hey, Moses brothers, how y'all doing? But on the back of his truck, he said, vote for the goat. And I'm like, I didn't know what that meant until I asked him about it one day. What's that mean? He said, goat, scapegoat. And then immediately, as being a Baptist, who's the scapegoat? Well, that's Jesus. How about him? Vote for Jesus Christ, the scapegoat. And he is, It took two goats in the Old Testament to show who Jesus was, and everything everything that evolved around sacrifices and things like that. It was all pointing to Jesus. The animals, the furniture, the things like. They took two goats. One, they placed their hands on the head of a goat and it killed the goat. Represents Christ. The other, they took the goat way out in the wilderness by a strong man and let him go. That was the scapegoat. That's what that guy was talking about. How about this? Vote for the goat. Now, my vote is for the goat, for the scapegoat. He carried my sins away. Huh? Yeah, I'm a rat. They're dirty. What kind of rat? They're dirty rats and clean rats. Let me tell you about rats. Don't want them around my house or in my house. I don't care if it's dirty or clean. But I like to consider myself a rat on a dying ship that the Jesus has taken and made his. Not because I was a clean rat or a good rat or whatever kind of rat, but because Jesus died for me. He's my scapegoat. So if I'm going to be political, if you're going to force me to be political, I'll be like the Moses brothers. I'll just vote for the goat. But his name's never on I haven't seen the goat on the ballot yet. Maybe we ought to start a goat. Maybe we ought to start a goat party. What party do you belong? I'm in the goat party. What party's that? The scapegoat party. Well, who's the scapegoat, Jesus? But his name's never on the ballot. So based on that little intro, we're going to start looking at this text that was written 2,000 years ago, and I think I talked about last week how wonderful the Roman government was, and Roman rulers were, and the leaders were. Remember us talking about that? That's when this was written, during those days. I don't care if you're Donald Trump, George Bush, Bill Clinton, or Obama. You are nothing. Your immorality is nothing compared to the bunch of people that ran Rome in Paul's day, the writer of this book. These people were living under horrible conditions. They literally lived with rats there in Rome and down there in them catacombs. Isn't that something, though? The environment that Christians lived in down in the catacombs of Rome. Who's here today? Christians. And who's not? Rome. Hey, boy, a preacher maybe shouldn't observe studies like that. Maybe his mind gets to rolling too much. That's okay, y'all. But let's just see what the Bible says. Don't we believe that the Bible... Don't we believe that the Bible is the Word of God? I do. I like to believe that every book of 66 books that we have, that collection, I think it's all the Word of God. And I like to know what that says. I lost my... Romans chapter 13, verse 1. Let every soul, that means every life force. It's talking about human beings. Let every life force, you have a life force. That's what got you out of bed in the morning. That's what got you dressed. That's what got you in the car. What got you walking down that aisle. Your life. Let every soul or life force be subject unto the higher powers. Be subject. That word subject means to rank or arrange yourself under. Paul commands here, let every soul, every life force arrange themselves not above the higher powers, not on equal footing with the higher powers, but where? What does the Bible say? Under. Unto the higher powers. The word powers means authorities. For there is no power. And how would we say that in English, in modern English today? For there is no authority. That's what that word power means. I believe it's exousia or something like that in the Greek. I don't know. I'm not a Greek guy, but there is no authority but God. Doesn't say but God, does it? It says but of God. So what does that tell you about authorities? The powers that be, they are what? Of God. Which ones? What does the Bible say right there? There is no power but of God. Whoa. Nero? Child molester? Pervert? Murderer? Patricide? You know what that means. Kill your parents. Killed his mama. Evil to the core. Liar, boy. Crucify people. Feed people to lions. Have them beat to death. Whipped to death. And have made sport of it. The powers that be are what? Of God. The powers that be are not God. It say God. They're of God. Well, I don't like that. Well, take that up with God. Oh, by the way, some more I was thinking on that. The Democrat he thinks the environment in which people live in is the problem. The Republicans think the drug's the problem. The Christian blames the devil for the problem. But you know who the atheist blames for the problem? God. That don't sound right, but listen to them. If you listen to them long enough, who are they mad at? Who are they blaming? God. There are no powers but of God. that be ordained of God. That means arranged or appointed. They're appointed. The powers or the authorities that be are ordained or arranged by God. Huh? Which powers? The good ones? The bad powers? The communists? The Democrats? Which powers? It doesn't say, does it? It just generally says the authorities that be are ordained or are chosen by God. Well, what kind of God does that? Let me tell you right now, Christian, Democrat, Republican, atheist, you ask God when you see him what he was thinking about that guy being in office right there. That guy being the emperor, the ruler, the president, whatever. You ask him about that. Boy, the arrogance. Let me tell you right now, that's going to be the last thing on your mind when you see God. About why he did. Why does the God do that? Boy, I have heard people say that. I've heard believers say that. I've heard a Baptist say that. Why does God do that? I even told one Baptist woman who was so mad, very political Republican lady. I said, well, I don't know, caught me off guard. I was having a bad day. Why don't you ask him when you see him? Because I got tired of hearing it. I got a little short with her. You know what she told me? She says, I am. I will. Oh, my goodness. Area missionary Baptist preacher, now what did you just get yourself into? This woman, very prominent, very wealthy in life. Smart, good woman, drug herself out of the poverty, and now she's rich. Super Republican. I'm like, oh, my goodness. You just can't win. Politics you want to get... Yeah, I'm political, but you know what politics are? It's a losing proposition. Just based on what we just read in Romans chapter 13 and verse 1, for you to be political, or me, to be political is a losing proposition. You ought to vote. As an American citizen, vote. You don't have to tell people who you voted for. Matter of fact, this is the United States of America. You don't have to tell people. Well, who did you vote for? I'll keep that to myself. No, I want to know. How about this? No, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. I voted. How's that? Did you vote? Who'd you vote for? I don't even care who you voted for. Just don't. Politics are a losing proposition. I'm very political. I'm a human being. I have to live in a world. I have to fork out taxes every time I buy a Coke at McDonald's. Give $1 for the Coke and 10 cents for the tax. I pay taxes. They say, well, you poor people don't pay. No, they do. They don't pay taxes. When they ring up that bill there at the register, you pay taxes. So, yeah, I'm a little bit political. Where's my... that's my money. I knew a guy in church one time so mad at the preacher, didn't like the preacher. He'd make sure he go to every business meeting. And he told me this, and I avoid politics in politics, and I avoid it in church as well. I just try to avoid that sort of stuff, but people are political. I go to them business meetings because that's my money. I put my money in there, and I'm going to decide where it goes. Church business meeting. First of all, is that your money? Steve, don't get into politics right here in the Sunday school class this morning. What do you give when you put money in the plate? You give back a part of what God gave you. Huh? You think you're going to decide where that money goes? Well, you just got political with God's money. How about this is his money? That's why we have a vote. That's why we have a congregation of people and they all vote. Yay or nay on us. How are we going to spend that money? Yay or nay? What happens in church, though? People get political, and they'll get these people on their side, and they'll get these people on their side. And I had a woman tell me, you need to come to church on this night for sure because we're going to vote on this, and we need to make sure. Well, what you just did, lady, sister, is you just politicized the kingdom of heaven. That's what you did. I seen the church fill up on one Wednesday night. Run 40 or 50 all the time on Wednesday night, and then one Wednesday night, 100 people there. Why were they there? To vote on whether the preacher got a raise or not. That was going to be the subject of the next. We're going to table that till next business meeting. Well, next business people, 50 more people showed up than generally come. Why? To vote down. To vote down, by the way. Not giving a pastor a raise. You have just politicized the kingdom of heaven. Money, the love of money is the root of all evil. You know, the Bible says that, and we believe it because the Bible says it, right? But don't we sometimes have to see it for ourselves and realize it? We just saw it right there. Oh man, America has so much money. We're rich. Churches are loaded to the gills today. They are rich in money. And where does the problem start? How do we spend the money? Well, you got liberals in church and conservatives in church, and they want to spend it one way, and you got religious people. Leave politics out of church. What does the Bible say that a church should spend their money on? You'd be surprised how little it says about that. I ain't saying a church shouldn't take up offering and spend money. I ain't saying that. But when you politicize that, you turn the kingdom of heaven into a man-made thing, and it's not. It's the kingdom of heaven. How do you think things go on in heaven? Here, this congregation is the kingdom of heaven. How do you think things go on up? You think there's politics in heaven? I think the devil tried that, and you all know what happened on that little deal. Jesus said, I was here when the devil was cast out of heaven. He was here on this earth. Why was he cast out of heaven? Maybe he tried to get political. I don't think God cares for politics, y'all. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. And I have both in my family, and I know both. I know people on both sides of that. I love them to death. But some of them, boy, are vicious about it. You're a what? You're a Republican? Ooh, you are evil. You're a Democrat? Ooh, no. No. That shouldn't, we're flesh. It can't help but interest us. But the thing that most should interest us the most is the kingdom of heaven. It says in verse 1, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Look at verse 2. It's going to get rough right here. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power. That word resisteth means, if you want to put it this way, constantly oppose. Constantly opposes. Whosoever constantly opposes the ordinances. That word ordinances means prescriptions of God. Of, where are they from? Of God. What's the context here? The powers that be. Who was the powers to be when Paul wrote this letter? Nero. Go back and look at Nero. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Ooh, damnation means sentence or punishment. It's talking about people who resist the powers, the authorities. And when you think of somebody resisting the authorities, what do you generally think of? Criminals. Don't they push it with the authorities? Don't they resist authorities? You ever watch that show Cops, and them cops will pull somebody over for drunk driving, for drugs or whatever, and how hard they resist? You ever heard that? Resisting arrest? They're going to receive what? That cop throws that guy down, drops that knee on the back of his neck, elbow, and whatever else, breaks them arms, cuffing him. That he's resisting the whole time. He's resisting arrest, but where does he end up? In the back seat of that car. That's what he's talking about. Those who resist are going to get in trouble. Thank goodness for the bad boys. What's that song? What you going to do What you gonna do when they come for you? Who's that talking about? What are the bad boys gonna do when the cops come, huh? What are you gonna do, bad boys? Hey, I saw something in the police. You know, we've all observed the police, and you know, I've never been a cop. I've never had to deal with that sort of thing. But something went on across the street from where I live one time. Gunshot and some other things. A big old ruckus over there. Late at night, I got up and I went outside and I was standing there, you know, just kind of looking around. And here comes the policeman. Drove up there. He pulled right into my yard where I was standing. I was kind of scandalously clad. I wasn't expecting that, 2 o'clock in the morning. He said, "What's the problem?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Somebody called the police about that house over there. What have you heard?" I said, "Well, I thought I heard a gunshot a while ago. That's what got me out here." He kept his car parked in my yard there. He reached into his car. He grabbed a shotgun out of there, like in a movie or something. I was thinking, man, call for backup. Wait for the other cops. You know, he's all by himself. 2 o'clock in the morning, it's dark. There wasn't even no street lights where I live. He got that gun and I was thinking he just headed right over there, right into that dark, right into that house, right into that property. And I was thinking, man, he didn't even call for backup. He went over there. I ain't going to tell the whole story, but he sorted things out all by himself. That guy was not. Why was he so fearless? He was not that old. He was a young guy. He's probably in his mid to late 20s. What possessed him to do that? To go over by himself with a shotgun and deal with a gunshot sound that he heard and this ruckus all by himself. Why did he do that? Whew, I'm going to tell you right now, I get lost in these stories, but I believe that God puts it in the hearts of men. I don't know how he does it. Not biblically, not scripturally, but men just have this thing about the law is the law, and their law enforcement are a little bit special. Why are they special? I think you can thank God for that guy that walked over there with that shotgun in the middle of the night to set things straight. He was the law. The law is coming. What you going to do when they come for you? Well, even in Nero's day, there was good law, good law enforcement. Nero even made spectacle out of some good law enforcement people and killed them. Evil. But Paul says here, I'm trying to get back to this subject. Whosoever therefore resisteth. What's going to happen when you resist? They're going to come and they're going to get you. And I'm so glad for that. Got a guy snooping around your neighborhood. Well, the police finds out about it. They're going to arrest him. Well, he can't steal from you now. He can't come in and kill you in the middle of the night. So those that receive, they're going to receive to them. Those that shall resist, they're going to receive judgment or sentence or punishment. Verse 3, he goes on, for rulers are not a terror to good works. What, Paul, did you not know who Nero was? Yeah, Paul knew who Nero was. You couldn't have lived in the Roman civilization in them days and not know who Nero was. I mean, do y'all know who President Biden is? Sure, we know what. You watch CNN News? No, I don't, because I'm not Democrat. You watch Fox News? No, because I'm not Republican. But we know who our leaders are. But look what Paul says. For the rulers are not a terror to good works. I think he's generally speaking. I don't know what kind of sheriff we had in those days, but that lawman, that guy that drove the car, that patrolman, county police is what he was. He went over there. He didn't, he could have threw me down in the yard if he wanted to, because I was in the same area. But no, he got things straight. He was a menace to evil doings. And I think, well, brethren, we ought to thank God for that. And we ought to be careful about who we condemn. We might be condemning somebody who God has put it in their heart to make it hard on evildoers. But verse 3, for rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Wilt thou then be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I was a serial speeder in my vehicle. Speed limit signs meant absolutely nothing to me. And just every now and then, I'd look in my rearview mirror. What would I see? Blue lights. Pull me over, give me a ticket. But I was such a serial speeder, when I was doing my speeding, I was always on the lookout for what? Police. Why? Because they're going to get you. They're going to write you a ticket that you can't afford, really. So, and here I am, 54 years old. I don't speed. I'm not a serial speeder. I do break the speed limit. I mean, who don't? But till this day, even when I am doing the speed limit, 55 miles an hour, and I look in my rearview mirror and there is a policeman behind me, you know what I do? I'm like, oh no, and I watch that police. You know, police do that, by the way. I know a couple of guys who are cops that pull up on you. And they know that if they stay there long enough, that car will cross the lines. You know why? Because people automatically will watch the police and not watch where they're going. They'll do it every time. If a cop wants to pull you over, he'll get right behind you until you make a mistake. Yep, he pull you up. I just want you run off road. Anyway, listen. If there was ever a time in my life where I hadn't been, so bad in my driving and law breaking, I would have no fear of a policeman. You know what? Oh, I could get into stories all day long, but I don't want to. Yeah, I do want to, but I want to get back to this text. Do that which is good in verse 3, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. What if police didn't pull you over, didn't pull anybody over and give them tickets for speeding? Didn't you know what you'd have? You'd have no holds barred on the highway. People would be driving 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. They got cars today that'll run 150, 160 miles an hour. And they'd be doing it. And you know what happens when you run 150, 60 miles an hour eventually? You're either going to kill yourself or somebody else. So thank goodness that the lawman's behind you and he's out there. He is there for what? For our good. Ain't you glad criminals are a little bit afraid of police? There comes a time, you'll see it in societies, that where criminals aren't afraid of the police anymore. Well, what's God thinking there? How about this? You know, a Democrat blames the cage, the environment, or the gun. The Republican, he'll blame the drug. Who's God blame? How about this? The rats. If the rats weren't to blame, they'd all go to heaven someday, wouldn't they? I am so thankful that God provides law enforcement. When a nation loses its respect for law enforcement, how about this? Have you ever thought about this? Maybe it's God is starting to pour out a little bit of wrath on that nation a little bit at a time. And eventually when it becomes a lawless nation where the cops are just as evil, and there are places like that in this world where the policeman is just as evil as the criminal, and the criminal is not afraid of the police because they're going to go to jail. They're afraid of the police because the police might hurt them or their families. What's God thinking? How about this? He knows what he's doing. He knows what a nation needs. Trust in God. He is the minister for thee the good. Verse 4, but if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Verse 5, let's go on. You know what's getting, I cannot believe. Where did the time go? I was just getting started. Maybe I let politics get into my Sunday school lesson this morning too much, huh? How about this? Focus on the kingdom of heaven and know that God rules in heaven And God wants to rule in the kingdom of heaven here on earth. And we can't do that with politics. We ought to be thankful that we live in a free society, a safe society, a society where you can drive around on highways without getting killed, things like that. But know this, that can change. And whether it's that good or whether it's evil, know this, it's of God. He's taking care of business. How about that? We just need to do what's right in this congregation. Do what's right by each other. Do what's right about our families. Do what's right about our community. That's what we need to focus on. Let's all stand. Word of the